Holy crap. You got Hakapalooties on there, huh?
Yeah.
Oh.
That one's getting a boss plow on it.
Oh, nice. Nice. All right, Tim, can you come on this side? Because I can't. Yeah. All right, so walk us through what we did with the suspension.
Here, I just added a leaf. So, should be 2. Got an extra one on there.
Okay.
And then up here, just did the HD springs here. So before, when I put the plow on, this bumper was just pretty much touching the axle.
So you were hitting the bump stop before with the plow on, and look how much clearance you got. You got to have like 6 inches of clearance.
And now it probably drops like, I put the plow on, I think it's maybe an inch. Presses an inch. So.
But now we're not done yet, because we're going to be putting new shocks on. Right?
New shocks, yeah, because these shocks right here, I think they're overextended already.
Yeah,
I've been noticing hitting bumps, it's a little more violent than it used to be.
Right, okay. What are you thinking?
Looking at the height, we will probably need to do extension plates, which is something that we do on a pretty regular basis for guys that do have lifted features on their trucks.
Okay.
And looks like you already have, is this a Western mount on it?
Yeah, we're running an Arctic on this one. Okay, so when you're looking at trying to determine if you've got to put extension onto it, where are you measuring?
So we actually take our measurement. There's 2 different ways to do it. I know on this one what we'll do is we'll actually go measure the truck that we have inside.
Yep.
And we'll see where we're at. But bottom of the bumper height's decent.
That'll tell us the difference between the 2
Yep,
trucks.
between the 2. And
Okay.
we know we're bottomed out on this one in here, so that'll tell us if we're higher, we do have to drop it with an extension plate.
Oh, we already bottomed out on that
I
one.
believe on the last adjustment hole on your guys' truck.
Okay.
So you don't want it any lower than it's at, and so we'll take that measurement, cross-reference that one, and we'll find out with some math.
Okay. Math works. Let's go. Math don't lie. Okay, so let's find out the moment of truth here. Plow is down, weight's off the front end. It's not lifted, right? We have no down pressure. Where are we at?
22 and a half.
22 and a half.
So we're about an inch different in height, which means, we'll probably have to do a 3-run hole drop
Okay.
to set that where we need to at 15 and a half.
Okay. So that's something good to know, so
Yes,
guys
it
not
is.
getting out there right without an issue.
What did we figure out?
We're an inch and a half in difference, so we will need a drop plate for that one. This one sits just a little bit lower than that one, so a little higher off there.
So when they put that other spring, we'll probably want you to put the spring in and then bring it back.
And then bring it back
so
and
we can get
double
exact
check
height.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because what we do is we'll get at the height that we got, and if it's a little bit one way or another, this little wedge in here
Gives you a little slack.
changes the angle.
4 different adjustments, and there's actually a little angled puck down there.
Okay.
And so the farther out you have it, it sets it a little farther up. If you tuck it in a little more, it sets it down a little bit.
Okay. All right. Well, while we're getting all of the detail worked out, first up, I want to say big thanks to Christ Steel for coming in on a Saturday.
Hey.
Boys, thank you. Thank you. These guys, honestly, been a phenomenal. I've worked with them for many moons, too many moons. I mean, decades. I've come to these guys for my stuff. But next up, I'm going to see if I can get Jordan from VSI on the horn, and we're going to go over some very critical salt and brine numbers, because I popped up a video and you guys had a ton of questions, and I want to make sure you guys get all of the answers. So let's see if we can't connect with him next. Okay, so what's the weight
925 on this particular one.
on this plow? Okay, so this is lighter than all of our. Is stainless steel typically lighter as well?
No, the bracing does add a little bit more.
Okay, so it
weight.
always, and people sometimes get poly thinking that it's going to be lighter.
No, that's really just the slip factor is what you're going after.
Yep.
The bracing to make it so it's strong enough does make it weigh a
Add
little
the weight. So it's not about a weight thing. If you go with poly, it doesn't corrode. Do they get brittle in this extreme claw? I've never seen one get brittle. I've had plenty of poly blades.
No,
I've
they
never
hold
had
up
any.
really well. So
Yeah, poly blades are great. Stainless steel blades are great. It just depends on really what you're looking.
That wet, heavy snow is where they shine.
The poly blades and the stainless steel.
It just falls right off.
Slip and slide, baby. All right, Jordan, where you at? Let's go find him next. So we're looking at Alex's extreme version of building out a snowplow truck. So This is his old truck. Let's take a look at what he did with, and it's still our truck. But
yeah, it's still a good work truck. Got all these super stack of springs back here.
you got a 7 stack, right?
Yeah, 4-inch block back. Well, 6 and a helper.
6 and a helper. Okay.
And then I got the super heavy duties up here, which, I mean, if you look at Tim's, you look at my thickness and then the space between there, and they're a 4-inch leveling spring too on it. So yeah, super beefy, but it rides like a lumber wagon on the road.
How about when you pick up the plow on the front though?
Doesn't even move.
The truck doesn't move.
No, usually it'd be like, as you're picking the plow up, the truck would go down, and then the plow would finally come up.
Yep.
This one's like, wah, it's up 2 feet off the ground. It's like, gosh, yeah.
You don't even know you pick the truck doesn't squat.
It just laughs at it.
Yeah,
that's all you got.
And that's a 250, man.
Yeah, it's at 250.
With
yeah.
what a 750 suspension.
Probably like a 550 spring setup on there. Yeah.
Yeah. And how does it handle with the that's a 1.5 yard hopper, right?
Yeah,
Cody, that's a 1.5 yard.
That is a yard.
Yeah,
Yep.
1.5 yards, and then I'd put the brine sprayer back there, which is heavier, you know, being 300 gallons. But in that new truck, when the water starts sloshing, you can feel the back of the truck kind of tailing. This stack of springs just holds you straight. You know, you don't get any tailing, I guess.
Okay, so let's be very clear. Alex has ran the VSI in both trucks.
In both trucks, yes.
Both trucks. So in this one, no, you don't feel it.
I don't get any type of like sway on the back where like once the water starts slushing a little bit, and I need to put baffles in there, but once the water starts slushing, then you can kind of feel the back of your truck going like this a little bit, you know, kind of tailing on you. And on this truck, nothing.
And that's Alex's wedding dance move too.
Oh yeah.
So anytime you see him at a wedding, this is all he'll be doing. All right. So, and you're getting a new suspension system in your truck. So.
Mate, we're just gonna drive it for now.
Well, we're gonna go with it as is.
As is till we get a snowfall.
Okay. And Cody, you said you've put bigger systems in smaller trucks than what we've got, right?
I mean, we put those 8000s before in the same truck, and you know they just run them.
They run them. Yeah.
Some people will put a timber in or something in.
Yep. Anybody have an opinion on a Timbrin versus what we're doing?
I just think a Timbrin is just a 2-inch higher bump stop. You know?
So let's show them what a Timbrin is. I mean,
You're just hitting on the bump stop 2 inches higher on the ground, so you're still riding on your axle.
It just
Yeah, the only thing they
stops
have
you
is
from
aggressive as the farther you
Right,
go.
yeah.
That's the only difference from your regular.
They do have a
full
little bit
bump
of a
stop.
squish, yeah.
Yep.
Oh.
So it doesn't. What they say is it's not supposed to affect your ride empty, right?
Right.
But it's supposed to help load
When you're
it.
loaded, yeah.
when you're loaded. Yep. So, if you guys have an opinion on a Timbrin, let me know, because Timbrins are a lot cheaper than what we're doing. A lot.
Yep, exactly.
Not inside the spring, right?
What's that?
You say inside the spring?
What did I say? Oh, I misspoke.
Yeah, I always thought it went right on C.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking, sometimes my mouth says words that my brain are like, no, take that back, but it's already been spit out. So even as I was saying, I'm like, wait a minute, is that right? And then all of a sudden I'm talking about something else. That's what happens when you have ADHD. Is that a squirrel over there?
Oh, yeah, bicycle.
All right, guys, as promised, I have Jordan from VSI. Now, this is the guy that invented VSI and uses Brine now exclusively in your business, right, Jordan?
That's correct.
Okay, so the first question I have is from Vinny Ben, and it says, do you think it's as effective as traditional rock salt? What do you say, Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big question. There's a lot of different ways to approach it. You know, I think the first place I'd start is that using liquid and using salt are really doing the same thing. So when we're using liquid, we are turning rock salt into salt brine, and we're applying it to the pavement that way. Now, keep in mind, when we're spreading rock salt on snow and ice, we're just creating salt brine on the ground. So when we're spraying salt brine, we're skipping that phase change, which allows it to work more quickly and allows us to use less salt. What I like to say with liquids is because it's doing the same thing as rock salt, it is absolutely equally effective. Now, there are times where rock salt is going to perform better than others. In our climate here in Minnesota, I know not all your followers are from Minnesota, so I'll keep it broad here. But in Minnesota, we typically get pretty dry snow. The drier the snow, the more effective and the more efficient the brine is. Mm-hmm. But brine always works because, again, we're doing the exact same thing as we're doing when we're salting. we're just putting it down in brine form instead of allowing the brine to be made naturally on the ground by mixing with the snow and ice. The other thing I like about brine compared to rock salt is it's more proactive. So we're getting out there further ahead of the storm. We can pre-treat further ahead of the storm to prevent that bond with the pavement. By being proactive, we're keeping the surface conditions safer. We have more flexibility on when we can apply that pre-treatment. If you go out and pre-salt 4 days ahead of time, all that salt gets crushed up by the car tires and it gets blown away in the wind. Whereas with brine, we apply it to the pavement, it soaks into the pores and cracks, and it can stay there for a lot longer period of time and be effective longer.
Okay, so it's basically, I just want to clarify, rock salt and brine are the exact same thing. You actually make brine with rock salt, and all you're doing is creating the chemical reaction. When you lay rock salt down, then you need it to actually have a chemical reaction so that each granular of salt can spread out. And you're hoping that you get the exact right pattern so that every granular of salt as it spreads out connects with another granular over here, connects with another granular over here. And that's why you have to end up using almost 70% more rock salt to get the exact same effect as using brine. There's no other difference between the two because you're using rock salt to make brine.
Correct.
Okay.
And I think it's important to distinguish that the reason we're saving salt by using brine is not because it's different. It is the same thing. You nailed it. It's because we need those granules of salt to be like an inch apart, because otherwise,
precisely.
Otherwise, those little brine puddles that are formed by that endothermic reaction with the snow and ice, if they have to spread 10 inches apiece, now it takes way too long to get down to a safe surface. Scientifically, it only takes 160 to 200 pounds of salt per acre to get bare pavement. The problem is, at 200 pounds per acre, each granule of salt's 10 inches apart. Those little brine puddles are going to take 24 to 48 hours to spread out and connect together. Commercial clients aren't willing to wait 24 to 48 hours for bare pavement. Thus, we over-apply rock salt. The average contractor is putting down 700 to 1,000 pounds of rock salt per acre, which is 2 to 3 times the scientifically necessary amount. But that's not because it's needed. It's because it's needed for speed, not for effectiveness. And that's why after contractors salt the parking lot, you always see that extra salt left behind. The parking lots are stained white. We have the extra granules laying around. It's because we applied excess in order to get the speed of results. Yep. And that's where brine really shines, is you skip that phase change, you get the results much more quickly.
Right, and then the extra rock crystals that don't get activated, those actually get tracked into your boots, and then they get tracked into the building. So the next question, and we got 5 of these to go through, so let's do a speed round. That was one. Let's go to the second question by Alec Luddick, and he says, try to avoid driving in this stuff when it is still wet. Way more corrosive than salt because it is a concentrate and also active versus salt, not active till moisture touches it. What's your 2 cents on that one?
So this is a controversial topic. This is probably one of the most common things I see, and I'll try to do this fast. But again, salt brine and salt are the same thing. He is right that when salt is dry, it's not corrosive because it's not activated. But as soon as snow and ice contacts that salt, it's just making brine on the ground. So it's the exact same thing. What you really see with brine versus rock salt is that if you drive on wet brine and you're going 60 miles an hour down the highway, brine gets into more nooks and crannies than salt does. So it's not more corrosive, but it gets into places that dry salt won't necessarily get, which can cause corrosion in different places. He's not wrong about that. Now, I think another question you're going to ask me is probably going to be about additives when we start talking about working in lower temperatures. But if you use additives with your brine, you can reduce the corrosion level of that brine by 80%.
So that was my next one. It was, what is the lowest functional temperature for this to work? Where I am at, it's negative 30 degrees Celsius, isn't uncommon in the winter, and this is by Chris PKN, Chris Pumpkin.
So we're a big advocate for using additives with salt brine. There are plenty of contractors that are using straight salt brine, and it is effective. I would say that in dry, low moisture conditions, you can use straight brine down to probably 10 to 15 degrees Fahrenheit and get decent results. If we start putting additives in our brine, like, add 5 to 10% additive in our brine, now not only do we reduce that corrosion score of that liquid by 80%, we can also work down to temperatures of negative 30 Fahrenheit, which I think negative 30 Fahrenheit and negative 30 Celsius are about the same thing. It's not exact, but it's pretty close. We have had puddles in our parking lots that have not refrozen at as cold as -30 with that additive in our brine. So you can work to extremely low temperatures. And keep in mind, straight white rock salt really stops working around 10 or 15 degrees. It just doesn't even function after that point.
So basically, at any temperature that your formula will work as a solid, it will also work as a brine solution, because all you're doing is creating the chemical reaction. So whatever you're using down to -30 degrees Celsius, now just add some water into it, turn it into a brine, use less of it to create the brine, and you'll have the same functionality. Correct or incorrect?
That is correct. Absolutely correct.
Okay, last question, because we did cover 2 of them. Stan, care to show your formula on how you mix your brine? And there isn't really a formula, but there is a certain salinity that you've got to hit, because it's very weird how it goes from being effective to doing the reverse by adding too much. When you make it too thick, well, you take it away, Jordan. You're the expert on this.
Yeah, so I mean, really, when we're making brine, we're just making salt water. But you're right, Stan. It's extremely important that we mix that salt water to what's called the eutectic point. So the eutectic point is the lowest possible freeze point, which is also the highest possible energy that you can store in salt brine. And that's 23.3%, which is 2.28 pounds of salt per gallon of water. Now, you might think if 23.3% is good, then 25% is probably better, but it's actually the opposite. So if you look at a curve, I don't have a graph on me, obviously, but if you look at a curve of the freeze point, so water freezes at 32 degrees. As you add salt, it gradually goes down till you hit -6 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the freeze point of 23.3% brine. So that's a gradual curve down. Once you get over 23.3%, that freeze point spikes up. And if you get back up to 26.5% salt brine, it now freezes at 32 degrees, just like water. And the reason for that is because we're overpacking, oversaturating the energy molecules, and they don't have room to bounce around and create that energy in that formula. And that's why if you oversaturate your brine, it will actually freeze at the same temperature as water. So I typically recommend, I mean, obviously if we can get right to 23.3%, that's ideal. Our VSI equipment does that for you. It literally tells you exactly what you're mixed to. But we typically like to stay between about 22 and 24%, and that'll put you in a safe range where you're going to have good, solid brine that's going to work at all temperatures.
That's the sweet spot. Do you have a YouTube channel, Jordan?
Yeah, Boss. So Boss Snowplow has a YouTube channel, pretty easy to find. There's tons of videos on liquids in there, and then obviously Stan, your channel has a bunch of good stuff on liquids too. We did a bunch of videos the last couple of years here.
Last year we did 5 together where we show the process. We show exactly how we do it. We went through everything from soup to nuts on that thing so that you guys have that information, and we put it out last year, so go find it there. Big thanks to Jordan. He was in another meeting. He rushed out to get here to do this for you guys, and I wanted you guys to have the straight scoop on all of these, because these were great questions by people sending them in. So thanks to the people, and thanks to you, Jordan.
You betcha, Stan. Anytime.
All right, catch you later, buddy. And that's going to call it for this video, you guys. I hope you enjoyed watching us build out this snowplow truck, and I knew some of you would be wondering, why was I possibly using a rock salt spreader when I've already got a brine set up? Well, there's a time for each. The thing that I really love the best is the fact that all of this equipment now has that tracking capability, because that is what's going to protect us from slip and falls. So I'd like to hear from you guys. Put your 2 cents in the comments below, and I'll catch you guys on another one. Happy snowplowing this year, you guys, and I hope you get some snow. God bless, and go get them.